Hello and welcome to Modern Sages. We are so thrilled to be talking to you today about upper realm journeys, which is connecting into the high council, our higher angels, light beings, ascended masters, as well as a cosmic family. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation all about exploring your cosmic self and connecting into our ancient aliens.
Welcome to Modern Sages Podcast.
I'm Jenn Gilbreth.
And I'm Candace Coons.
With over 25 years combined, we have delivered messages from beyond,
explored ancient healing wisdom, and integrated these profound teachings into our everyday life.
We are passionate about creating new ways of being human in the modern age by integrating the wisdom of the past with the present and coming into remembrance of who we truly are.
Are you ready to change your relationship to life itself? If the answer is yes, your journey begins now.
Before we get started, as always, we wanted to share with you such a powerful herb, which is milk thistle.
Yes. Milk thistle, again, should be one of your top herbs because it is wonderful for detoxification of the liver.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of the toxins that we have in our environment, our food sources, and also all of the immunizations and all the different things that carry heavy metals that are in our system, it's really good to have some kind of herbal support to be able to detoxify those chemicals from our body. So milk thistle is a wonderful medicinal herb to use, and it should be in everybody's apothecary for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I recently have been learning all about reflexology, and I feel like everything stems from the liver. So when we're talking about doing detoxes, a lot of times we work on detoxes. And if we're not focusing on the liver first, because the liver is the second largest organ in our body, is when we can work on detoxing the liver, it can really make everything else come back into balance a lot quicker and a lot more effective. So this is such a powerful herb that we can incorporate to really help our liver, help everything function better and quicker and faster so that our body can be at the ultimate prime health that we are ultimately all seeking. But a lot of it does stem with the liver. And so this could be a really amazing, amazing herb to add into your apothecary.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's supposed to help individuals who struggle with acne. They did some case studies where people were taking high doses of the milk thistle, and it helped eliminate about over 50% of the lesions on the face, which makes sense in the fact that if you're detoxifying the body and the liver, and the skin is part of that, it's part of the body that detoxifies chemicals, everything will show up on the face and on the skin. So if that part of your body is detoxifying, if you're getting rid of those chemicals from your body, it makes sense that your skin would naturally clean up itself, right? The other thing too is that it's supposed to help eliminate some of the side effects from cancer treatment, which again, there's a lot of chemicals that you're taking into your body during a cancer treatment. And so it's supposed to eliminate some of the symptoms and the struggles with that. And another really cool benefit from milk thistle is it's supposed to help increase milk production. So if you're breastfeeding and you would like to increase the amount of milk production, you can take milk thistle and it should help with that. So what an amazing herb.
Such a powerful, powerful herb. Absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing that came to my mind when you were talking is that energetically, we hold a lot of anger and emotion in our liver. And so if we have experienced or we've a lot of anger in our lives, where either as a result of trauma or some kind of wounding, and we're holding that energy and that part of our bodies, it can affect the liver as well. So I highly suggest that if we're taking milk thistle for detoxification of our liver, that we also use that time to really process our feelings, that we journal write, that we work on those energetic levels as well, and just be aware of any kind of intense feelings or emotion that may be released as you're taking the milk thistle as well, because some of those energies may have been held or lodged in that part of the body and suppressed or pushed away. And so when you are going through a detox, it's very, very common for people to feel a lot of heavy emotion while they're detoxing. And it's because those energies are also being released from the cells of those organs. So during that time, if you are taking milk thistle for detoxification, I just highly recommend really journal writing, really processing your feelings without feeling guilty or bad for feeling bad, and just allow the energy to move through and out through the pages. You can always burn it later, tear it up, bury it, whatever, so nobody has
Yeah.
to see it. But being able to release those emotions is so healthy, and milk thistle will assist you, because a lot of people, they forget that not only do these herbs have amazing benefits, but they all come with plant spirit energy. And plant spirits and the natural world have much to teach us and to show us. And so, as you're working with the plant spirits of milk thistle, it will reveal things to you.
Absolutely.
That is a core principle of shamanic teachings.
Yes.
So, allow those teachings to come to you, to share with you what needs to be seen,
Mhm.
and just love yourself unconditionally and release that on the pages and get that out of your body.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so glad you talked about that too, because whenever you're detoxing the body, whenever you're bringing it back into balance, there's always a shedding in your body as well. So if someone's doing some kind of diet, say keto, right, is they might all of a sudden be super sick for a few days. Or when you're detoxing, all of a sudden you might feel sicker, or your stomach hurts, or you're having to use the restroom a lot more. Well, you're just releasing and shedding those layers. And so your emotional layers, because we are a multidimensional being, is so key as well. And that kind of reminds me, even today, Candace, before we hopped on our call, you were talking about this energy that you're feeling connected into the environment and connected into the world today, about how there's been so many people waking up to their cosmic or multidimensional being, where we know we're so much more than this, and yet we're still here in this physical journey. So how can we make the best of this time and fully fulfill our contracts, learn the lessons, but also to just enjoy this human journey? But it also feels
Yes.
like there's this heavy energy, since we're shedding so much, just like emotionally or physically, that kind of is in the consciousness of the world. It kind of feels like there's just this dense, heavy energy. And so I think we need to dive into that just a little bit as we lead into our next conversation. But I think
I
it's
do
good for
too.
everyone to be aware of.
I do too, Jen. Yeah. And when we're coming back to a heart-centered way of living, anything that is in the way of fully opening your heart space, in the way of you feeling safe enough to be able to open yourself up. Because in the beginning phases of really reconnecting back into your heart space, it's very common for, and I hear this from a lot of women, um, to feel very vulnerable. It feels very raw, very vulnerable. And when we are living in this life and we're being domesticated and we're being told that we need to stop daydreaming when we're little children, that we need to wake up to the real world, and then we have experiences that hurt our feelings, or things that we don't understand happen to us, or trauma, we build these protective energetic kind of layers around ourselves, where it's like they're false ways of protecting ourselves. They don't really protect us from those things that can hurt us energetically or emotionally. But we create this facade, these layers around our energetic field. And when we're processing those feelings and emotions and we're reconnecting back into our hearts and what we really, really desire in our heart, our innocence, our purity, the inner child within us, it can feel very vulnerable. But because we come into contact with those layers of energy and emotion that at the time made us feel that we somehow needed to close in on ourselves instead of opening and really feeling this connection that you feel to creation when you're a child, that purity, that essence of connection to life, to the natural world, to everyone and our cosmic self, all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can feel really heavy. It's like an energetic detox, because as you're coming and up against those energies and those layers that created this trigger point where you felt like you needed to close in, that reveals itself and goes, well, what do you want to do with me? What do you want me with this energy? What do you want to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to look at it from a place of love and compassion, those heavy emotions, we're able to transmute those heavy emotions and release ourselves of that heavy energy that has been binding us for years and years and years of our lives. And so I feel when I connect in with the collective, because we're in the process of this great awakening into the remembrance of who we really are. It is the true power, the true essence, the true love and light and power and innocence and creativity and joy that is the true essence of who we are. Anything that is in the way of us seeing ourselves clearly needs to be cleansed and transmuted from us energetically. And the only way to do that is to hold space of love and light. It's not so much about doing something with it, which is the mind will tell you, you need to figure it out. You need to do something with that information or that feeling, or you need to get rid of it right now. And really, when you're returning into that heart center space, you find that no, you don't need to do anything. The soul just is longing for you to fully feel the experience. And as you hold space for it, just like you're holding a child that is crying inside of you with love and allow them to feel, it just naturally transmutes. And the wisdom from that experience, you're able to retrieve that so much easier. And then you get to hold the diamonds of that experience for yourself and move forward, and it empowers you in some way.
Absolutely.
So that's what I feel like is happening on a collective level, whether people are fully aware that this is happening. And so when you're going through that detox, it can feel kind of crappy,
Yeah.
right? You can feel crappier before you feel better, because you're like, gosh, I'm doing all of this light work. I'm doing all this healing work. I'm meditating. I'm coming back into remembrance. I have these moments of remembrance and clarity. Then all of a sudden afterwards, it's like I have this fall where I feel so heavy. And it's because that light is pulling out all of those shadows,
Yeah.
all the layers. And it just being patient with yourself, being gentle with yourself is so, so important. Learning how to really hold space
It's
and
beautiful.
love for yourself, like being your own best friend, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
our best friend, but it's true.
I
You
think,
can't heal yourself if you don't.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's perfect too, because I find that even in my session, I had a session earlier this morning before we're recording, and it was so beautifully put in the same situation. Like exactly what you talked about is what came forward within our session. And it was
Wow.
all about being able to pull back and to see things from the eagle's eye view, seeing things from a broader perspective. And I think that's so important is we can get so boggled down and so heavy by what we're experiencing here that we forget why we came here and what the purpose is. And I myself had a lot of that going on when I started meeting with you, Candace. Is, of course, we've talked about this many times, but I was just in a very deeply wounded space spiritually, and my connection to God, I felt very disconnected. I felt very heavy and very just this heavy energy, like I was being betrayed and left alone. And why were all these things happening? And so coming into this space of really learning more about the upper realms and doing journey work to the upper realm really helped me move through what I was detoxing and letting go. But if we don't
Yes.
have something to help us refill when we're detoxing, it can be easy for us to spiral into this dark abyss and to feel lost. And so when we can look towards the winged creatures, when we can look towards the birds, when we can look towards the upper realms, our higher angels, our archangels, our angelic beings, we'll talk about the high council. It can really help us find a new pattern and a new way of looking at things, because all of us are shedding. And that also means we're letting go of things that are wounded. But sometimes letting go of some things is good, but sometimes we need to sometimes it's more effective if we change the relationship that we have with something instead of fully just letting it go, because it still might serve you and it might not for that time being. There's a time and a season for all things. And truth is truth, meaning that if it's true for you, then it's true. My truth could be different than your truth, but that doesn't mean that my truth's not truth and your truth's not truth. It's just different. And that's how I feel like we need to view this concept of upper realm and our galactic family. Is for some, these things are like so accurate and so true, while for others, it's like, oh, I don't know about that, but I believe in this, or I have this connection. But when we can open our mind and say, hey, I'm willing to just explore the possibility, that's when we can really have magnification, because everything is connected. You are connected. I am connected. We are one. We are one for whoever is listening in this energy bubble we're creating. They're a part of this energy. And they can see and feel and have that experience. But it's not because we're better than someone else, but we are all connected. And it's just like we're bringing new experiences or new opportunities of growth to the surface that are already innately within you. You just might have forgotten. And that's how I was.
Yes. I love that. Well, the shamanic path is the path of personal revelation.
Yes.
It's not a path where, the shaman gives you all the answers. The shaman is always going to point right back at you, at your heart. So it really just provides tools for you to go figure it out for yourself, because the core teachings is that you are not separate. You are not separate from the divine. You never were. And so the best way to remember that is to go within and reconnect with this heart space, to recognize that you have the power of the whole universe inside of you. You don't have to go outside of yourself to go get it, to find it, to get it right, or to be worthy of it. You are already worthy of that knowing inside of yourself. And so when you use these tools, you reconnect into this remembrance. It's not that you were really even reconnecting, because you never even left. It's more of just coming out of a dream that you were somehow away or gone or not there, or that God doesn't love you and holds you forever in its embrace. And yet we had this experience of separation, right? But that is all part of the journey here. Being human is that you'll get this experience that you're separate, but in truth, you find out in the end that you never were.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, that's the big joke. Like, I remember when I first heard that, I was almost kind of angry about that. I'm like, well, then how fair is that? That I would feel that I'm separate, but I'm not. And that was the big joke this whole time. I I was
Like,
just
what the
separate for
heck?
no reason. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's kind of funny, but
Yeah, I think that going into that space is remembering. And in the past, we have talked about the cosmic tree. We've talked about
yes.
middle realm journeys, which are all about
Yes.
connecting into your ancestors, connecting into your animal totems, being able to really get present with what's going on in your surroundings here in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Last podcast, we dove deep into inner child healing in the lower realms. So
Mm-hmm.
this time we're going to be climbing up the tree and really reaching into the upper realms, what that
Yeah.
looks like, what that feels like, and how we can deepen that understanding and how it can apply to us
Yes.
today.
I feel like it's important that when we're working with the information, these tools, basically, these are tools for healing,
Yeah.
right? That's what this is. Um, when I work with students and when we're talking on modern sages, we talk about that middle realm first. It's like, let's just start in the middle and where we are right now and make us aware that we are not alone, that we are surrounded by spirit helpers or beings or angels or guides, whatever you want to call them, and our animal spirits, totems. Um, there's so many souls and energies that surround us with love and support every day.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an important thing to know that, for one, okay, not only are you not your body, you're not just this physical experience, but you're not separate from the divine that's inside of you, but you're also not alone, that you are surrounded with so much love and support. I feel like after that is really stabilized, where you feel that love and support, then you can recognize that you have all that you need to go do the work and the healing, that you are strong enough, that you are supported, that you're loved, you are coming back into remembrance of who you are in truth. So when you do your inner child work and when you go into the shadow of yourself and heal those heavy emotional energies and really reconnect back into that innocence and purity and power that is inside of you, it opens a door. It's like it opens a door inside of you for you to explore all aspects of yourself, which, that is when we go into the upper realms. And it reminds me, and I remember sharing this with you when we were talking about it, where the Lord said we must become like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's like when you reconnect in with who you really are and your true essence, it opens up an opening, an awareness that you are so much more than this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what gives you this, it's like a shift in frequency, because as shamans believe that we don't have out of body experiences, because again, if you were to say I'm out of body, then I'm leaving something to be separate from that to go there, right? When shamans think about journeying, it's a shift in frequency or consciousness. They call it altered states of consciousness. But when you journey, you go full body. You have a body that explores these different realms. And so, like when you go into middle world journeys, you're like, oh, I have a body. I can smell, see, hear, touch, all the senses that I have within this body, I have there too. It's kind of this realization, and it gets stronger and stronger the more you do it.
Yeah, it does.
And it's the same thing when you go into the upper realms. And when we do upper realm journeys, I'll have people jump on the back of an eagle. And we start there. The eagle joins us in the sacred meadow in the middle world. And we start flying and circling up and around this tree, up to the branches. And we go up higher and higher and higher up into the sky, and then you go in through the atmosphere, and it goes on, and there's just layers upon layers and layers of these upper realms that you can explore, including the void, which is it's a very interesting experience because you pass through this membrane of energy. Do you remember that when we
Mm-hmm.
did that? And you lose all concept of boundaries. You can't feel the outside of a body anymore. It's almost like you stretch out so far that the stars become, the very essence of the energy in your own energy body. You just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you go into the space of endless potential, which is called the void, or some people call it the womb of the great mother. But it's a place of endless possibilities, and a place where it's such a beautiful space to be in when you're thinking about manifestation work, because being in this space of void, and anything is possible, and you bring that energy back into form, this remembrance and this of this endless possibility that is inside of you. You feel you can manifest anything, and you can
Mm-hmm.
manifest anything. So even though the void may seem, oh, it's the void, it's nothing, it's so powerful, because it's like you go into that and you realize, gosh, it's not nothing, it's everything.
Right. And you kind of hear when people partake in a different kind of plant medicine. So maybe someone's doing ayahuasca, or
Mhm.
someone's doing some kind of, some other kind of plant medicine, is they also explore this realm. They also explore, they might have to deal with some inner child stuff. They might have to go down to the lower world, to the middle world, to the upper world.
Mhm.
And you hear a lot of people who connect into that area, which we do a lot of journeying, not through plant medicine, but through breath work and through meditation and stillness, where some will use obviously plant medicine. And a lot of people will talk about them realizing or connecting in to who God is, or connecting
Mhm.
into these thought leaders who have brought so much guidance to different parts of the world, who have really brought good, like Buddha. There's Krishna, there's all kinds of people, Christ. There's so many different experiences in which
Mhm.
you can really get a feel and sit with and see how their goodness has affected parts of the world and parts of humanity that needed that element to be brought down. And so in this
Yes.
upper realm, you can communicate and visit the high council. And this high council
Yes.
is it's always different, I feel like. When I went there the first time, I was a little bit more shamed to be there, and I didn't feel like I was deserving to be there. So that was inner work for me to look at. And now I kind of just see it that we have like these different like you could see like high patriarchs, or people who are, or even like priests or priestesses who are here to like bring in this higher consciousness,
Mhm.
where they can help us, they can transmute energy, but they've also been thought leaders or have brought major religious context, different ways of viewing things into form here to help us navigate this physical journey. And that's part of what the High Council does, is to help us. And so we can have that one-on-one connection. For myself, it really helped me heal
Mhm.
my perception of Christianity and of the heaviness that I felt, the judgment that was there. And it brought me to a different connection with who God was and how I could interact with God, and the essence of God's being, how it's spread out throughout all the world. And this really gave
Yes.
me clarity to see how there's different paths and different people take different things and they need it at different times. And none of it's bad or wrong. It's just what people are learning about in this aspect of life. And I know, Candace, in your journey, you've learned so many different things, where you started out with paganism, then you were also into breath work and yoga, and then you went to shamanism, which that was, there's like a lot of different things which brought you into Christianity. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm feeling I'm being drawn back into practicing more of yoga on top of your Christianity, on top of all those things. And it almost like comes in phases. But I feel like the upper realm brings this consciousness. It helps us to transmute energy, but gives us freedom to see that it's all one. It's just worded differently, but it's not bad or wrong if one person subscribes to one thing. But also, if it's not calling you, maybe there's something that you need to shift within you so that you can bring that connection back in. And that doesn't mean that's shut down forever, but when you need it, you have it to call on when you're feeling drawn to it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And the High Council. Yeah, this is a group of beings, and they are formal spiritual teachers that have come to this beautiful planet throughout history to bring hope, healing, and remembrance to humanity. And they were born in all places around the world into different cultures with this common core energy that they wanted to share with the world. And the way that they taught was unique to the time, to the culture, to the messages that the people needed to hear at that time. And they had different names for spirit, for the creator, for these different experiences. They had different tools that they used or techniques that they shared to help others have that personal discovery and personal revelation for themselves. And it was beautiful and it was perfect. And they came at the perfect time, and they're still here. They never left us. They're in spirit. They watch over us. We can have access to their wisdom and to be with them, where you can take it out of a mental concept or idea and have it be a personal experience for you. And it's so powerful. You realize, like, once you connect with them, that gosh, everything is so relevant in modern times. All the wisdom teachings that they provided had were so relevant then, and they're relevant now. I think about, of course, we always refer more to Christianity because that is our background. So the teachings of Jesus and the teachings that he brought to the world were about remembrance, remembrance of our divinity, the fact that this isn't it. Life goes on for eternity, that there's cause and effect for the energies that we put out into the world through our thoughts and our words, that it's important to love our brothers and sisters, to forgive, to hold compassion, to see them for who they really are, not just us, but them too.
Yeah.
And you think about the teachings of the white buffalo woman
Mm-hmm.
and the peace pipe and what she brought to the tribes. It was about brotherhood and sisterhood and coming together and listening and coming into right relationship with yourself, with others, with the natural world, with Pachamama, with Mother Earth. She was about bringing that energy of union, of peace, of compromise, of
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness
Yeah.
to the
And
people.
yeah.
And
And
now is a totally different culture, right? But they're all
yeah,
part of the High Council.
absolutely. Yeah. And I know that I recently participated in a Norse tradition, and we called upon the goddess of the sun. And bringing her wisdom and her energy, we offered up a prayer and just connected into her essence, into her energy. And it was so freeing. It was so expansive. It was so powerful and so beautiful that even having that moment, I was like, wow, she brings a lot of goodness. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times back in the day, we learn about all different kinds when people believe in different kinds of gods or multiple gods and goddesses, is
Mm-hmm.
they all had a part to play. And even within Norse tradition, is there different gods who had different elements that they brought in, and you could call upon them for different directions and different reasonings in life. And so even seeing that, like, they have purpose for each one of those things. And so I feel like
Yes.
when we take a step back and see how that's patterned after the high council, and everything is a pattern. Everything is a pattern. And you can see that in different contexts, different religions, different perspectives, it all has kind of this pattern where people bring and have purposes for different things. And it's what they resonate with, it's what they're naturally good at, and it's the
Mhm.
power with it. Like, for example, Thor has this energy that's like striking, and it's the thunder, it's this heavy, it's like this go go go, like passionate space, where others like Freya, who I do a lot of journey work with, she's very to me, she's very nurturing, she's a teacher, she's very helpful, she's really connected into the animal kingdom. So like, I even call upon her when I'm doing journey work, and even when I go to the high council and other realms, like Freya's with me a lot, her essence, her energy. And I know for you, Candace, you feel very connected into Mary Magdalene, and
Yes.
she is like integrated into who you talk about her constantly. She's
Mhm.
so a part of who you are. And I feel
Yes.
that with Freya. And so
Mhm.
when we can just know that none of it's bad or wrong, every essence, every energy is here to bring different concepts, and it's all pointing us towards the same thing, the same direction, the same light. And
Yes.
that's part of what the High Council does bring for us. And it's so beautiful and so healing that I don't have to cut out what I thought Christ was within my faith, who he was, how he was perceived, what it needed to look like, the black and white that I felt was connected to him. I don't have to hold on to those things because I can get to know who he is for myself in a real space
Yes.
versus relying upon someone else's perception. I can experience it. And this is
Yes.
what we're here to say, is that you can experience all kinds of experiences. You can have that connection with the Lord. You can call upon God. You can call upon all different kinds of beings to help you. And this high council is a huge support in offering space for your journey, but also giving you protection and a higher vision of what it is that you're experiencing and why
Yes.
you're
Yes.
experiencing it.
Absolutely. We talk about how the animal allies, our spirit helpers, our ancestors who are assisting us on the other side. And it's so important that we always honor our ancestors, because their wisdom teachings, their love, their lives for being here are part of the reason why we are here, right?
Absolutely.
We're all interconnected. And but a lot of people don't realize that there's more, that we actually have other beings that are also assisting us. The High Council is very collective. They are focused on the collective healing of the planet, of humanity, of the galaxy, of the universe. So they're they embrace the whole picture, but at the same time, they're always available for us to go and spend time with, to receive counsel, healing, and support. And it's like the more you become aware of your immediate spirit guides, the more you can explore the other aspects of yourself and the higher realms too that are also supporting you, and including your oversoul energy, and of how you're connected in with this high council, how you can also raise frequency and connect in with the oneness of the God self energy, of the one energy, God or universe or Heavenly Father, Mother. All of those names are fine. It's just language talking
Yeah,
about the same thing. But we have access to all of this. There is nothing that the creator has that we are not welcome to, that we are
absolutely.
welcome to all parts of creation, which is mirroring back to us aspects of who we really are. The other part that it will open up to you as you explore the upper realms is the reality that we're not the only beings living in the galaxy and the universe and the multiverse. And in shamanic teachings that go back over 100,000 years, they talk about how we all originated from the stars, that the star beings came and taught them the stories of creation and how they came into form and how the world was created. It was the star beings that told them. And so there's throughout history, you will see, you'll hear teachings about the star beings. You'll see petroglyphs and carvings and drawings of the star beings visiting the medicine women and the men, or the tribes and of the old cultures all around the world. We are not alone. It just is the reality of creation. We are not alone. They have been a part of our evolution for hundreds of thousands of years. And what's so awesome is that when you start connecting in with the upper realms, you start connecting in with these galactic interdimensional beings and the wisdom teachings that they have to share. When you go visit the High Council, even the High Council, if you really spend time observing the energies, they come in all different shapes and sizes and looks.
Yeah.
They don't all look like us. And that is okay.
You know,
You think about the mass creative expression, how egotistical and immature is it to think that this is it?
yeah,
This
it's
is the
almost,
only thing,
yeah,
only being that
it's
the
almost
creator
like
would create.
it's almost like we're the end all be all. Like it's just this
Mm-hmm.
one time. And I think that's so important to know. And it's actually funny, Candace. The other day, Curtis was talking to me about how he's been listening to different podcasts about people
Yes.
going on trips, like taking plant medicine, and they're experiencing themselves on a like on an operating table where there's different light beings who are operating on them and removing parts of them that no longer need to be there. And in the
Mm-hmm.
past 6 months, there's been a collective uptake where a lot of people have experienced similar experiences. And I was just laughing because he's a little bit more skeptical about a lot of things in life. And he was kind of talking about how they're kind of like helping bring this healing to a lot of people. And then I was able to talk to him more about our experience that we had. We went to a retreat. Well, Candace hosted this beautiful shamanic retreat that I participated in, and we went to these petroglyphs.
Very sacred spot at Capitol
Yes.
Reef National Park. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect and beautiful. And there's a portal there, which we got to take time and to clear the portal and to do a sacred ceremony, a fire ceremony there. But in the midst of it, the first time I was like not really open to the idea of communicating to a galactic family. And I've always had the thought, like, oh, there is this galactic family. There's so much more than just us. But it was just
Mm-hmm.
the unknown that made me feel very hesitant or uncomfortable. And the other girl who was with us, she's very connected into the star system and the galactic family.
Yes.
And so I remember being like, these people are crazy, like in my head, kind of feeling that.
Yep.
And as the night went on, it was like all of a sudden we could feel these light beings just step through the portal. And it was like we could experience it and see it in our mind. And it was so clear that they were here and that they were a part of our experience and they wanted to deliver messages. And we saw these blue beings to be with us that came forward.
Yep.
And it's actually funny because I took some pictures in the middle of our experience, and there actually is blue light randomly behind you. It's like smoke,
Yep.
but it's blue. And it was just so interesting. But that experience was like they were here and they wanted to bestow wisdom upon us. And I was like, I don't know about all this, like very hesitant to kind of fill into that. But then by the second time we did a fire ceremony, a different time, it was like they were here communicating and it was a lot more free flowing. And
Mm-hmm.
I like how you said it's almost like egotistical to think that we're the only ones. Like we're the only ones. This is the only chance we get to live here. Like that's it. There's like, no, there's so much more. There's so much to
So much
experience.
more.
And it's just opening our mind and our concept to maybe feeling that and not closing it off right away. But the funny thing is Curtis was talking about how people were experiencing them kind of like changing their DNA or changing their spirit
Mm-hmm.
body and changing and bringing light. And so I was telling him how when they came forward, you could see them kind of like doing this coding where it was like numbers and like all these things going on, and they were like kind of
Moving
collectively
around.
moving
Mm-hmm.
the energy. And the second time we had a ceremony, we did it for female energy and moving forward through blocks of being female and with business and all of that. And I just remember the last time I literally was like having to move my hands. Like it was almost like this encoding was taking place, that they were helping us encode or to heal our energy or to move our energy and to be aware of that. Like they want to help shift our consciousness, just like they did in the
Yes.
olden days, to bring in more information, to raise
Mm-hmm.
our frequency, to be more aware of what's going on. And I feel like that's a huge part of the Galactic Council is there
Yes.
are different families. We have the Pleiadian, we have so, I don't even know all the ones. There's so
Yeah,
many
there's so
different
many.
kinds, and they
Mm-hmm.
show up to different people for different purposes. And it's just beautiful to see that like in God's creation, there's so much more than what we realize is part of this creation, part of this source
Yes.
energy, this higher being of light. It's all connected.
Yes. And it's all interconnected by a web of energy. It's the web of creation. And so you can access these upper realms and dimensions and star systems through practice, through journey work. So visiting these upper realms really opens you up to being able to explore, so not only visit with these beings, but actually explore the higher dimensions, because we're not the most evolved species.
We're kind of like on the low,
Yeah,
low,
we are kind
low
of the lower
end
end, actually. And
of
so,
it.
yeah, there's a lot to see, there's a lot to experience. Um, the beings that have been here overseeing the evolution of our planet, our consciousness, have been here for a long time, and they don't have ill will towards anyone. We would know if that were the case, because their technology, their consciousness is so much more advanced than us. And so it's really it's silly to even think that there would even be a possibility of going against it, even though they would never want war or violence or anything that is dark upon us anyway.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are concerned about, they're like, well, are there dark galactic energies? And of course, everything exists in the universe, but the ones that we are talking about, the Galactic Council, are not those kinds of beings. They're the kind of beings that want the best for us. In a lot of sense, they have been altering DNA and trying to assist us in our awakening and our consciousness for a very, very long time. But they also are interdimensional, which means that they're able to shift consciousness to assist us and connect with us and communicate, but they can also shift into other awareness, because in their consciousness, there is oneness. They don't feel the separation that we experience when we come into a human body.
Yeah.
They are at a fifth dimensional or above frequency, which means that they always feel that oneness and interconnection.
Can I tell you an amazing example? So during a session last week, I had a woman come forward who she came to me because she wanted to connect into her guides versus her ancestors. She's like, I really don't want my ancestors to take over. I want to connect into my guides today. So I was like, okay, this will be fun. And at one point, the blue, a family, a galactic family, who are the blue people? The blue light guides? I don't even know.
Well, and there's some that have more of a blue energetic body, and there's some with blue skin.
Like a blue, loud, tall light being.
Okay. Yeah. Those are the ones that mess with the coding, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she came forward. So in the session, it was so powerful because she had like this whole family of this galactic. They were here to support her, but it was almost like they were addressing how they came here or how they're here to support her. And she was such a strong-willed individual that she almost is kind of like their test dummy here. In like, to put it in our words, like they are learning through her with what she's learning. She's done a lot of different kinds of help, mental help with other people, like really focusing in on that. And she's like, I never really felt like I was fully here. Like I never felt like I was fully supposed to be here. Like I just felt different. But they just acknowledged how she has such a strong will about her that they're learning a lot about this physical journey, the human body, the human mind. And then they're to help her bring these higher forms of consciousness, but also they're learning through her body, like they're connected into her space to learn along with her. So it was just like this beautiful dynamic of how maybe she came from them and came here and wanted to experience it and they're learning with her. And the way that it came forward, all of it was just like so beautiful, so perfect. It was so profound, but it just resonated with her. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been feeling my whole life. I wasn't able to put it into words. And so just knowing that, like, there are so many options and so many different things. And of course, people get worried. Oh, is it of light? Is it of dark? Well, as long as we're connected into our heart center and as we're grounded, we're connected to the divine, we can find what's right and what's true for us. And I think even knowing that is our galactic family, our high council, our ancestors, those higher light beings, they are not going to appear to us or show up to us in ways that are going to make us feel uncomfortable. Now, they might push open the box like it happened for me at our ceremonies, but they respect our agency. They're not going to show up to us and bring fear. And if someone says, oh, I really want to start connecting to my ancestors, but I'm afraid I'm going to start seeing dead people and I don't want to see dead people. Well, for one, they're not dead, but that fear of seeing it kind of holds them back from being able to just experience their presence. And so when we have this fear energy around us, it puts up a buffer, it puts up a barrier that causes us to be unable to fully experience because they're not going to push past our boundaries. They respect us. And fear isn't the way to connect in. So we always go back to the tube of light, to grounding, to your spiritual understanding, which is also why when it comes to exploring shamanic teachings with journey work, we do have different phases of being able to trust yourself, of being able to fully align so you can trust what you're experiencing, but also so that you're ready. Because if when we first got started, Candace, if you were to say, hey, at some point you're going to channel information from a galactic family, I would have been like, peace out, you're crazy, I'm done. Yeah. But it was the levels, it was the learning, and it was trusting yourself and knowing that you have what it feels like when you are connected to source, when you are connected to your authentic truth, instead of feeling like, am I crazy? Am I emotionally unstable? Is my mental state off? But when you're aligned, when you've practiced these measures, when you've been able to focus in on that, it gives you such a stronger space to trust.
Yes.
But it opens up the space for higher understanding, for that deep wisdom, and for that fun to be there in communication.
Yes. You know, because through domestication, when you've been told that, you know, everything that you imagine or dream is a fantasy, that it isn't real, that it's crazy to do this or it's crazy to do that, that you can't see things, or you may be institutionalized if you see things. If it's like all of that conditioning, it has to be unraveled
Yeah.
from you, because, you know, back originally, when shamanism was all over the world, this was the way that everyone was raised. They all knew about their interconnection to creation and to the natural world. And they this world, according in its shamanic teachings, is like, you're dreaming this. The reality of who you are is spirit. That is truth. They would never say, oh, you're crazy for seeing this or seeing that or experiencing this vision or that vision, because it wasn't perceived crazy to see the non-ordinary world, because that is just as real as this world that you are living in. You know, it's so it wasn't perceived as something that was just imagination or crazy. But because of all of that conditioning, it also created a disconnect to our own power, to trusting our own intuition. It traumatized the relationship that we have to Mother Earth, because we became less connected to her energy, what she is telling us, or the energies of the natural world and what they are telling us. We don't take care of our planet with respect because of this disconnection that we have to the natural world and to our intuition, which is, our intuition is the language of the natural world. If you want to connect with the natural world, then you must connect with your intuition.
Yeah.
And
And it
so it's an unraveling
it
process. It's like, I'm
is.
not going to throw something like that onto you, because I know it's like, this is what we've been all brought up to believe is reality and the only truth and this and that. And so as you start to wake up in that remembrance of it's who you really are. It's sort of like waking up out of a sleep slowly, instead of having somebody jar you and scare you to
Mhm.
death out of a sleep. It's just like a little nudge here and there until eventually, you wake up out of the dream
I love that
and
because
you realize you're not alone.
yeah, it goes back into what you were talking about at the beginning of this energy of Mother Earth, of this collective heaviness. Like it all is coming full
Yeah.
circle here. Is you can kind of feel the closing of the energy as well, closing up this time, but also going back into that space is it's naturally part of who we are. And this is understanding all of this is our true essence. And
Yes.
those who maybe are drawn into looking into the path of being like a yogi, or someone who wants to do Buddhism, someone who's really devout to Christianity, someone who's really called into the Galactic family and wants to learn more about that. Maybe there's this calling inside of you that's like, this is the time for me to learn this. This is the time. And when we can honor that, when we can get back down to the roots of where we came from, of who we are, of how humanity lived off of the land, didn't rely upon all different kinds of pharmaceuticals, which there is amazing perspective and that does bring in a lot of goodness. But there's also plants, there's also a lot of things that we've kind of forgotten. We've taken ourselves to live in the land versus to live on the land versus to live in the land or to live with the land. And
In
all
harmony.
so many are being called back into that space. And so knowing
Yes.
that Mother Earth is here to help transmute that energy. And the best thing that we can do is to fully embrace this human journey, to move our body, to be outside, to dance, to laugh, to have fires, to listen to music, to be here. Because when we can play here, we can connect in to our higher source, the high council, the galactic family, to our ancestors, our angels, our higher powers. When we can do
Mhm.
all of that, the thing that helps us stay stable, where we don't get lost in the upper realms, is for us to embrace here. And as light workers, as spiritual teachers, it can be so hard to want to come back down to this dense earth when we're working in such light spaces. But we came here to be human. We came here
Mhm.
to embrace the earth, to do rituals of the earth, to collect berries, to dry flowers, to use them in rituals. And this is part of who we
For
are.
healing.
This
Mhm.
is part of what we came here to accomplish. And when we can find the healthy balance with Mother Earth and that honor. And when we can say, hey, I'm feeling very overwhelmed today, I'm going to go lay in the earth. I'm going to go dig in the dirt. I'm going to imagine all my heavy energy being transmuted into Mother Earth. We're not polluting her. She came here. Her purpose is to help us navigate this human journey, but she's actually using that energy and she's transmuting it into soiling the earth, into bringing up what we need. And so, of course, we've talked about the upper council. We've talked about the goodness, the upper realms, but it's also good for us to remember, hey, we are here to be human. We can tap into this amazing experience, but we have to transmute it. We have to bring it back down to make it logical. And I love how in the past, you're like, I'm a practical mystic. If it doesn't resonate, if it's not bringing forth change in my physical body, in my physical space, then I don't need to focus on it. But what we're saying is this can be real. This can really help you remember who you were. Maybe you were part of a galactic family and you never felt like you fit in. Well, maybe that's something to think about, but not just to focus in on that where it's like, oh, I want to go back to that, because you came here for a purpose. What did you come here for? Why are you here? What are you supposed to be embracing? Not supposed to be, but what can you embrace? What can you experience? Because ultimately we are here to experience it all, but also to be remembered and to be awake yet present. And so I just hope that in this podcast that you really were able to get a feel for that, to open up your perspective to more, but also to have this new vigoration of life and integrate it into your human journey, which is going for a walk, which is dancing, which is hip thrusting movement, to really bring us back into this space and back into the sacred movement of why we're here, because we only have limited time with this meat suit. Are we enjoying our meat suit, or are we cursing our meat suit? Because that's a huge part of it too.
It really is. Oh, I love everything that you said. The Aquarian Age is about integration. And when you come into remembrance and you go through your process of awakening and the realization that you're so much more than this body, than this mind, and these emotions, this human experience, it's not to shame the human journey. You are here to be human. But what it is supposed to do is to allow you a perspective that is beyond time and space, that is limitless, and integrate that knowing and the here and now into the planet. Because that energy, as we root that energy here in our bodies, in Mother Earth, we regain that restoration or that balance again that Mother Earth needs for her healing and what the collective needs for its healing. And that's really what this journey that we are on is all about. It's about harmony, it's about balance, about right relationship. And so not being aware of the upper realms and your multidimensional self is cutting yourself off from the wholeness of who you are, of the different things that you are capable of experiencing. And it's really also too about, again, trusting your intuition. Know that, it's going to take time for you to unravel all of the conditioning of the mind. And so when the mind's telling you that it's just your imagination, that it's not real, just say, so what? And just go about doing it anyway, and allow the visions to come to you, the messages to come to you, for you to feel supported. Allow that energy to fully integrate into this body and into the world. And that will change the world. That will heal the world, because your intuitive faculties will be strengthened. You will hear the calls of nature. You will understand what your body needs to come into balance, what others need for healing and support and love. And that will shift the frequency of the whole planet.
Yeah, I think
it all starts with you.
Yeah. And the last thing I feel like I really want to hone in on real quickly is that when we experience such spiritual experiences, the Lord always says, don't cast your pearls before swine.
Yes.
And there are times where you keep things sacred and you don't have to talk about them. Or maybe you're diving into new perspectives and you're still a baby, your foot is still kind of in exploring that. Sometimes if you decide to open up to everyone and everything about what you're learning, people aren't going to understand it. And if you're not settled or if you're not grounded in your truth, it's going to cause you to fall backwards. And I can see that because I 100% experienced that, like over and over and over again. And now I'm in the space where I take time to integrate, I think about things, I talk about things, and I also fill out for when it's appropriate to talk about things. And that's also part of someone who experiences spirituality. It's not everyone's going to be open. And even these conversations is we know that whoever is supposed to hear them will hear them. And it is vulnerable and it is scary. But at the same time, we kind of have to have this backbone of like, okay, not everyone's going to understand and we can't take it personal. But when we're just barely getting started, it's easy to want to take things personal because we want people to love us and respect us and trust us. And so being aware of that too is you don't have to share everything right away. You're still learning, you're still growing.
So true, Jen.
And there's a time and a season.
Pick your audience. Yeah. Make sure that you surround yourself around individuals that are open-hearted, that are ready to hear the experiences that you have. What I found though is that when you hold space for yourself and you unconditionally love yourself, those individuals will start coming into your life.
They will.
And you will have those individuals or people that you can talk to about these things. But it's true, don't always share your sacred journeys and your healing experiences with just everyone. They need to be able to honor and respect that which comes through. So I totally agree.
Yeah. And we'll be getting together and having sacred ceremonies, retreats, mystery schools. So we're going to be here to kind of help also hone in an environment and a community. So stay tuned for that because we know it's necessary and needful at this time too.
Exactly. Well, I hope that everyone who has listened today will open up their hearts and their minds to the possibilities of the endless connections that we have access to in the upper worlds as well. The lower, the middle, and the upper worlds. Not only do we have endless opportunities to connect with the natural world, but we have endless opportunities to connect with the unseen worlds and the beings that are there supporting us. And we are so supported and we are so loved. So I hope that all of you feel the love and the light that we have shared here today. And we will see you next time. For watching Modern Sages, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We are so grateful for your support. If you want to follow us, we have an Instagram account as well as on Facebook. We have our podcast, which is the Modern Sages podcast as well.
And we are so excited to launch our Gifts of Spirit classes in our Modern Sages Mystery School.
Absolutely. Oh, we're so excited. So we're going to link the information below in the show notes for more information about our mystery school.